The length of a game is vital to its success, but the reasoning differs from person to person. You see, it wasn't that long ago that reviews would mark games down for being too short, even if the game floated around the 10-hour mark and was packed with quality within each hour. This was during a period where JRPGs were somewhat exiled from the Western zeitgeist, and games of a service were barely a term mentioned outside the darkest corners of corporate hallways. It was, however, also a time when short, full-price games floated in and out of the market. Some memorable titles include Kane & Lynch 2 with its 4-hour runtime, The Order 1886 with its short actual gameplay time padded by cutscenes, and even back then, the measurement of time equals worth was skewed. Depending on what a game is or what it offers, the ability to measure time to a worth is pretty fluid. Platinum Games' modern classic Vanquish is only 6 to 7 hours, but it packs so much quality and replayability within those hours that measuring it just by initial time to finish is, frankly, unfair. It wasn't uncommon to see reviews and consumers focus on the idea of length as the primary point of deciding if something was good or bad, or if it was worth it. It should be remembered that this era was dominated by first-person shooters and third-person shooters, two genres not typically set up to offer long single-player offerings. As the years rolled by, we entered a whole new era of video games, hardware, and expectations. With the improvements in hardware, open-world games became the norm. Large maps filled with stuff to do, and often experience points to grind. A perfect answer to the length equals quality mindset, something which companies like Ubisoft seemed hell-bent on tackling. Around the same time, open-world games became the de facto trend and games of a service started to grow. Suddenly, games no longer ended, instead going on and on and on with regular updates and additions. The ideal of length as a measuring point started to become blurred. Oh, and of course, one other thing, RPGs of every flavour boomed. Be it C, J, A, or Mu, the girthy nature of RPGs was back. Hovering over this entire topic is the idea of never owning these games, but borrowing them. Back in the day, video game rentals were the perfect means to play new releases without the burn of a full price tag purchase. Those short games suddenly became weekend jaunts that fluffed up your gamer score. Hell, remember the Avatar game that people rented just to get their 1,000 out of thousands? Rentals also allow people to try new genres, low risk, low entry cost, and the possibility of high reward. In 2025, those rental services have been all but replaced by the likes of Games Pass, combining the rental experience with the direct-to-drive methods that PC players have been enjoying for decades. So, where does it leave the idea of length? Well, it's currently caught between subscription services, games of a service, and 100-hour games, and it leaves it in a very fluid state. Like water, it shapes itself to whatever you hold it in. Games of a service and MMO-ish games can offer long-term and short-term play. While they do get a bad rap from people, the reality is these games are often shaped to players' lives. The same can be said for most modern MMORPGs. Just look at how modern World of Warcraft has changed. It's a great example of this. But what about the single-player games? While there is time and love for the sprawling epics like Baldur's Gate 3 or Metaphor, there's certainly a sense of fatigue when games come flexing hundreds of hours of content. What was once seen as a negative has now become an appealing aspect. The shorter video game is back. Recently, the reaction to Mafia: The Old Country's around 10-hour runtime was met with relief and warmth. And it's not alone. The never-ending tsunami of content a consumer has access to has made it very hard to stomach long-term time investments. You see, there's a common misconception in the video game industry that your game is only competing with other video games, when in reality, it's also competing with every other activity out there. Be it watching shows or films, reading, drawing, miniature painting, sports, baking, shaking, sinning, everything that requires time is a competitor to video games. This is where a game with a relatively short length can find its sweet spot. Not too long to feel like a slog, and not too short to not feel satisfying. A number of indie devs and publishers have already cracked this. DreadX has been killing it with short, interesting titles that fit perfectly in the lives of the busy and the free, as too have Kepler and the likes of Hooded Horse. While a small piece of speculation is based on my time working with indie publishers, I feel the reason the likes of Balatro, Animal Well, UFO 50, Dead Cells, Papers, Please, Cult of the Lamb, Into the Breach resonates so well is their pick up and play nature that provides quality at any length of play session. One thing you tend to find is when these games are spoken of among the demographic outside of the 18 to 21 year old, it's their length and play session quality that is nearly always mentioned. Brevity is a selling point, price dependent of course. For the longest time, the middle market was propped up by a few European publishers, mainly Focus Interactive, and all of their games mostly offered short gameplay lengths, but with quality, which in itself became endearing to users and consumers. The length of a game has never meant so little, yet meant so much. But as mentioned earlier on in the video, you as the consumer have so many options and all the information you could ever possibly need when it comes to purchasing or playing a game. I'd like to think that we've long since passed the days of measuring games' quality just by their length, but I feel like this will always be something that pops up, at least from the mainstream consumer. And I'm sure in a few years' time, when perhaps Games Pass becomes the default way that most people play their games, that the idea of length and quality will of course change once again. But for now, we have a thriving indie scene that has provided so many short play, top quality games. The middle market seems to be leaning on this more and more. And even AAA seems to be understanding that not every game that's boasting 500 hours of gameplay is necessarily something that is appealing. For those not even looking to purchase a game but still play something, Games of a Service seems to fill that gap pretty nicely, despite the connotations that the business model brings up and will continue to bring up throughout its existence. And ultimately, this video has been kind of pointless. While I can't give you a definitive answer, I don't think that was ever the intention anyway. Instead, it's to understand that your time is exactly that. It's your time, and you're in the position to find the games that you want to play and you might like. And you also might be looking for things that you would like to try, hence why you've probably came on YouTube to begin with. And with subscription services, low price games coming from indies and middle market, and all the information you could possibly need, well, I guess it is what I said earlier. Time is like liquid. Put it in the container of your choice. Be it a 200-hour CRPG, a 7,000-hour Games of a Service, or a 3-hour card game. Everything is on the table for you to try, play, love, or even dislike.